and welcome to Moving Forward, where we discuss community affairs and meet local people with intriguing stories. I'm your host, Ellen Copy, and today we are talking about two organizations informing society that people with and without disabilities are more similar than different. Later this episode, we will be speaking with Kristen Daly, the Executive Director of the Upside of Downs, to tell us more on the organization. But first, we are with Dr. Lori Oliver, the Director for the Hattie Larlham Center for Children with Disabilities. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you start by telling a little bit of the history of how this organization started?
Sure. It was really through the efforts of one remarkable woman, Hattie Larlham. Hattie Larlham was a nurse. Back in the 60s, way back then, she found that she had a calling to help children with disabilities, children who really had nowhere else to go and who no one wanted. So she started by taking these children into her home, and her family was a great support, and over time they built this wonderful center where we serve 130 children today.
And what about the mission and vision that she had that continues today? Can you tell us about that?
Well, Hattie was just so mission focused, so dedicated, and really her efforts were toward helping these children have as much joy and achievement and comfort in their life that they possibly could, and that really is the hallmark of the organization: comfort, joy, and achievement.
What about the core values of the organization?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we are looking at ability rather than disability, and helping these children to achieve everything that they possibly can. And our staff are there for them every day, helping them to find a voice. We have our creative arts program. They have a lot of self-expression through that program, and many others as well.
What about your personal view on this woman who had this idea and what it's grown into today? What do you say about that?
She's amazing. She's absolutely single-minded in her efforts and her mission. I think we would be hard-pressed to find many people today who could be so dedicated. She had so many challenges. She didn't know about architecture and buildings and, building codes and rules and all of that. All she knew is that there were a lot of children out there who needed some help, and she was going to work with her family to provide that help for them.
Now, you're in a director position yourself. What does that entail for you?
Well, it's really quite a privilege to work at Hattie Larlham. I'm responsible for the overall daily operations of the center, for supervising ultimately really all of the staff who work there. I have some wonderful managers and program directors who oversee the day-to-day on the unit efforts of our staff, but I'm there just to kind of steer the ship and keep it going.
What are some of these overall services that are provided at the center?
Oh, we have a lot of services. We have occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. We have hydrotherapy. The children get an opportunity to go in the pool, and it helps with their mobility, their flexibility. We have nursing services. We have social work, all of the services that you might imagine. Plus, the kids have a lot of fun, too. We have recreational activities, a lot of events that they can participate in.
And I read online that you have some summer camp opportunities. Can you tell us a little bit about the summer atmosphere?
Sure, absolutely. In the summertime, we have a lot of children from the community there. A lot of the children are actually of the staff's children who participate in these camps. Some of the children have diagnoses of autism, for example, and they're right there playing alongside of your typically developing children from the community. So it's a very unique program. It gives the children an opportunity to learn about folks that are maybe just a little bit different than they are.
Do you have any have you been to the summer camp yourself?
Well, I've only been at Hattie Larlham a few months, but I did start in the summer and have a wonderful opportunity to see all the kids running around and having a good time in the play center, in the pool, so yes.
So the atmosphere is very fun.
It's very festive and fun, absolutely.
Yes. Well, reporter Antoinette George from the Moving Forward team actually had the opportunity to visit the Hattie Larlham Center for Children with Disabilities. Let's take a look.
I think most of the time after people have become familiar with Hattie's, either through a tour or through volunteering for us, they're amazed at the amount of activities that our individuals are able to participate in given the limited physical movement that they have.
I walked in and I thought I was going to feel an overwhelming sadness, the idea that the things I love to do, I think I attach them to mobility or ability. So what I left with was the feeling that I actually had more in common with someone just because we communicate differently or we move differently or our mobility is different. They were so much smaller than what we had in common.
There's just hundreds of children who have come through our doors in the last 50 years, and each one of them has such a unique meaning, in our lives, and we wouldn't be the same without any of them.
On average, there are a lot of people at Hattie Larlham who've been here for 20 years, but you kind of know within the first 20 days that this is the place for you.
We kind of never stop thinking about Hattie Larlham the rest of our lives. When we go home at night, we're thinking about something unique that happened during the day, some funny thing that made us laugh. Maybe we're thinking about some child who's sick and we're worried about them.
For me personally, it's given me a perspective on my own misgivings about what you think is something great or something terrible. I think I've learned from the individuals that live here to see something great in things that people would ordinarily just skim over.
I really cannot imagine having done anything else with my life other than what I've done here. I think of the countless families and individuals that I've met and how they've impacted my life in so many ways.
Hello, I'm Ellen Copy, and we just watched a story about the Hattie Larlham Center for Children with Disabilities. We've been speaking with Dr. Lori Oliver, the director of the center, and we saw in the story that the women were talking about how they're constantly influenced by these children. How do you personally see that influence on others, or how do you feel it yourself?
Well, these children are absolutely amazing. When you first look at them, if you don't look closely, you see somebody who is so limited, who has so many disabilities, so many challenges. But once you get to know them and you look a little bit closer, you find out how much they can do. You're so inspired by their spirit, really. You could just see it in their eyes. They're happy kids. They really are just relating to people, and it makes you look at your own life a little bit differently and appreciate all the things that we can do on our own without such assistance, but they really are quite the inspiration.
You mentioned about the perspective, and it was also talked about in the story that the life changed, the perspective of life changed. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, for myself, I look at these kids and I'm just so inspired by their courage and their spirit, and they seem like very happy children. I'm just amazed when I take a look at them and see that they are so enthusiastic and just exude a sense of joy, and that in and of itself is contagious. It rubs off on you and makes you feel very happy about all the gifts that you've been given.
Do you have any stories or memories of any children connections that you've seen, or anything like that?
Well, I'm just getting to know the children. I'm very privileged to have that opportunity, but I guess one of the experiences I've had already that has stood out in my mind, I had the chance to observe a young lady in a creative arts session. And I saw that whole process unfold, how she worked with the artist to tell him what she wanted on the canvas. Our children have an opportunity to do that in our program, and they can create some beautiful works of art. So there really is a deeply thoughtful person in there. We just have to look hard enough to find them.
And now I know that you've been mentioning that you're newer to working here, but in the story they talked about how this work never leaves them. They're always thinking about it. Is it a positive or negative, or what can you reflect on that thing that they said in the story?
Oh, it's absolutely very positive. As I mentioned, the children really are quite the inspiration, as are the staff. We have some very dedicated staff who have been there a long time, and they are very hardworking. It's not an easy job to take care of somebody's every need. And our staff you could see it in their eyes and watching them do their work as how dedicated they are. So the children and the staff are quite remarkable.
What can you say of this dedication? What level of dedication, or what kind of people does it require to stay committed?
Well, I think that changes you when you come to Hattie Larlham to work there. A lot of people may come there just thinking that they're getting a job, but once they've had a chance to meet the kids, get to know them, and are influenced by all of the abilities that they have, I think at that point it really does change a person. And that's that dedication that you see.
Can you tell us about ways that people can support or help out, volunteer this organization?
Well, probably the first step a person should do is take a look at our website. It's at hattielarlham.org, and it's a very comprehensive website. It lists a lot of opportunities for how you can donate your time, or funds are certainly always welcome. It's quite expensive to pay for medical supplies and other supplies that are needed by the children. So that's one way. Other ways are to get involved in some of the events that Hattie Larlham sponsors, and certainly probably one of my favorite ways is just to frequent our cafes, where we have some really wonderful food that is also prepared by people with disabilities.
What about where you want to see all of this go in the future for either yourself or the organization in general?
Well, Hattie Larlham is an organization that is constantly moving forward. Our CEO, Mr. Dennis Allen, I've never met someone with so much vision in my entire life. I asked him at one point, what are the limits? And he told me there are none. It's limitless. So we're getting involved in so many things in the community and providing so many opportunities for people with disabilities to learn work skills and to be out there as productive individuals just as you and I. So there really are no limits.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for dedicating your time to come with us and speak to us and teach us. Thank you for being with us, and we've been speaking with Dr. Lori Oliver about the organization Hattie Larlham. Stay tuned after the break. We'll meet Kristen Daly, Executive Director of the Upside of Downs.